Hi, it's Karen McDermott-Rolfe, your independent creative memories advisor. You can find me on my blog at karencrops.com or on Facebook at Karen's Croppers. I'm also a founding member and designer at Creative Life Scrapbooking. You can find us on Facebook and also on the web. At Creative Life Scrapbooking, we feature fun things like quarterly PJ Party virtual crops. And also we do weekly features on Facebook for Border Maker Monday and Featured Project Friday. And it was my turn this week for Featured Project Friday, and this is the lovely layout that I shared. I created this layout using the beautiful Boho Escape collection from Creative Memories. And I played with my pattern to create a mandala pattern. Now, Creative Memories had a mandala border punch that was very popular and it sold out quickly. It's no longer available with the company, but everyone loved that pattern and that shape so much. And I thought there was a way to recreate kind of a mandala punch using one of our most basic tools, the corner rounder. I believe when I started scrapbooking about 25 years ago that this was the first Creative Memories tool that I purchased. It's been updated since then, and this is the newest version. But this layout was easy to create. All I did was I cut some squares. The larger pieces here are for 1.5 by 1.5 inch squares. And the smaller pieces, the gold and the green, are from 1 inch by 1 inch squares. And then I simply use the corner rounder to punch opposing ends on the squares to create this kind of a teardrop shape, which then I placed all around my layout. To create this layout, you'll need 14 pieces in this larger size, that's 1.5 by 1.5. And then you're going to need 14 smaller pieces that are 1 inch by 1 inch to go in the center of your pattern. So that's 14. And then you'll need another 14 to go around the outside edge. So I did 14 in the green, 14 in the gold, and 14, excuse me, I had to stop and think a little minute, and 14 in this larger size also. I had created a hollow frame for my layout. I cut the hollow frame here from that green designer paper to make the background. Also from the green, I used the custom cutting system with the smallest circle pattern, the green blade on the outside edge to cut a photo mat, and then I used the red blade on the outside edge on my photograph. And then if you can see, I'm not sure how well it's showing up, but I used the brown pen, the brown dual tip pen, to outline all of the shapes. And that gave them just a little bit more visual interest, a little bit more dimension, kind of gave them the look of being matted. And I really like what the pen did to the pattern. I fussy cut a little piece from a Boho Escape designer paper, and then I added some embellishment pieces and I trimmed down a variety mat to make a journaling box for my layout. So I like this layout so much, and it reminds me of many different things. A flower, a sunflower, the sun, just a beautiful pattern. Also, I got thinking it kind of reminded me of a peacock kind of pattern. And then that brought to mind the Emerald Gemstone collection from Creative Memories. And in this Emerald Gemstone designer paper pack, there is a sheet of paper that has a peacock pattern on it. And I was wondering how I could use this paper to create the same pattern, and it would kind of, mimic the look of a peacock with the feathers. However, this paper has a directional pattern on it. It's a very directional, deliberate pattern. And when I cut the pieces, I want to use this pattern. So the pattern on the paper is going kind of in the same direction as how I'm going to be punching my little shapes. Okay? When I did it for this layout, there was no direction on the paper, so I did not need to be so careful. I could just cut the squares anywhere in the paper, and it worked beautifully. But I want to show you, it took me a little while and my husband had to help me and we figured it out, a way that you could use this directional peacock pattern paper to make a similar peacock layout. So let me show you what we did. You're going to take this 12 by 12 inch sheet of the peacock paper and you're going to fold it on the diagonal. Now be precise as you can be when you fold it, because we're going to cut it in half on the diagonal. Now the Creative Memories 12-inch trimmer is so nifty. Everyone loves the trimmer. There is one drawback though. When the paper is on its side like this, it's too large to fit in the trimmer to cut in a diagonal. So that's why we fold it. I got a nice crease line there, and I'm going to use my scissors now, and I'm going to cut on that crease line. And we will use most of this paper. Okay. Now I can see I was a little bit off in this corner. It didn't quite meet up, so we'll see what happens later. We're going to take the 12-inch trimmer now at this point, and we're going to cut off the very tip of it. So I'm going to put it in the trimmer like this. And I'm going to take this little point and I'm going to find the intersection of the 2-inch line on the trimmer and the 45-degree angle. So I have this edge here of the paper on the 45-degree angle, and I have the point, the tip there of my paper on the 2-inch line. And then I'll just hold it down and I'm going to cut that off. We'll set that aside. That's kind of excess paper. So now we can cut this sheet into some strips. And we're going to want to stay on that 45-degree angle also. So we're going to just move it over to the 1.5-inch line. And there's also a line here from the top ruler on the trimmer at 1.5. I have the point right here at 1.5, and it's still on that 45-degree angle. And I'm going to cut a strip then that's 1.5 inches. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to move it down a little bit. It's wanting to bend here a tad at the bottom, but that's okay. We have it again at 1.5 inches and on the 45-degree angle. Now at this point, the paper, you can see, is too long to fit through the trimmer. So we're going to have to cut off these pointed ends. So I'm just going to arrange it like this on the trimmer and cut off the pointy ends. So now I have a rectangular strip here that I can work with. So I'm going to cut another piece at 1.5 inches. And then this remaining section should be 2 inches exactly. I'm going to cut that in half to have 2 pieces that are 1 inch wide. Okay, so that was 1 inch and 1 inch. And then these 3 other pieces are 1.5 inches. So now my 1 inch pieces, I'm going to turn on their side, and I'm going to just cut those into 1 inch by 1 inch pieces. And I won't do them all, but you get the idea. I've cut some now. And I'm going to do that also with my 1.5 inch pieces. Of course, I will put them at the 1.5 inch line, so I end up with a square that's 1.5 by 1.5. So I've cut a couple there to see. I'm not sure how I'm going to finish this layout. I've not created it yet. You're watching me actually create. I practiced with some practice paper, but not the actual paper that I wanted to use. So I'm not quite sure how it's going to turn out yet. So now I have my squares, and I'm going to turn them in so it looks like a diamond. And I have that pattern on the paper going in the direction that I want it to go. And I can see, you know, we're going to mimic this shape that's printed on the paper. So these 2 sides would be rounded. So I'm going to round the 2 sides. And then I preserve the pointy end. And now I've got the direction of my paper is going the same direction as the pattern that I've created. So just hold it so you can see that pattern on the paper going in the right direction. And you'll do that with the large and the small pieces. Now when I didn't want to, I've already used one sheet of my peacock paper, so this was my only sheet left. So I didn't want to play with it ahead of time because I wanted to preserve it to use to make the video. So I'm not sure actually how I will complete this layout yet. I will need to cut a circular piece to start with using the smallest circle pattern in that green blade on the outside edge to cut a circle to start. And then I'll line that circle with 14 of the small little pieces. And then next will come the larger pieces, and then next smaller. So I'm going to play around. I might create the entire layout just using the peacock side of the paper, see how it looks. I'm thinking it might be a little bit too much. So I could turn it over and I could use the back side. And I could use, some then using the peacock pattern paper. And then I've got this emerald green kind of gemstone hexagon design there that I could use for another of my pattern. Or if I wanted to introduce a little bit more color, maybe a little bit of blue, I would grab a sheet of paper from that emerald gemstone that has some blue, and I could do something with a tricolor effect like I did with my original layout here. I've completed my second Mandala-inspired layout using the peacock paper, and I just wanted to show you how it turned out, and also to offer you some helpful tips when completing this layout. I decided I tried using for all 3 rows. You see I have a small row, then a larger row, and then another small row. At first I tried using the peacock paper for all 3 rows, and I thought it looked okay, but I thought it was just a little bit too much. So I added this green color that I used for my outside frame and also my photo mat for the 3rd row. And I really liked what that green did to the layout, and it helped kind of to delineate the 3 different rows here of pattern that I have radiating out from the center. Some helpful tips to help you to create this layout. When you start, the first thing you're going to want to do is to adhere your photo mat in the center of your layout. And remember, you've cut that from the smallest circle pattern with the green blade on the outside edge. So what I did is I put repositional tape on the back of my circle photo mat, and I just eyeballed it and put it as close to the center of the page as I thought, but I did not press it down. So I just kept it on there lightly. And then I used the new centering ruler from Creative Memories, and I placed it on the page, and then I centered up that circular piece according to the ruler to find the center of it. And I did that going horizontally, and then I also did it going vertically. And I just kind of had to scooch it a little bit again to get it centered with using that ruler. So the ruler made it super handy to find the center of the page. And you're going to want to find that center as close as you can, because that's going to determine the rest of your pattern and make sure that you have space when you come to the 3rd row for all of your pieces. What came in handy was using the repositional tape from Creative Memories. The repositional tape, it comes out in clear little dots, so it's wonderful to use with our Border Maker cartridges when you're dealing with an intricate pattern that would be hard to get adhesive on. It comes out clear, and then any excess can just be rubbed off your layout and brushed away. Now, since it's repositional, that means we can pull it up and reposition it if we need. And I'm going to use my multi-purpose tool here and just show you how I'm going to pull up a piece. So easy, and look at how nicely that pulled up without tearing the paper. And then I can just replace it, re-adhere it. You can see I've got some little stray little pieces of the adhesive, so I'm just going to rub those into a little ball and brush them off. Now this adhesive, the repositional, it is considered permanent adhesive. So over time, it's going to get more tacky instead of less tacky. So it's going to be considered permanent. It will not fall off, and but you should be able to pull it up at a later time if you need to go and make any adjustments. And with a layout like this where the pattern and the spacing is kind of important, it was nice using that repositional tape, as I had to tinker with the pieces a little bit and just slightly move them to get them going in the right direction and the right spacing. Something else to help you with that spacing that's ever so important, I said to begin with this circular piece and then work from the inside out. So then do this row of the smaller pieces first. Now before you begin taping, what I always recommend, and what was very helpful in this case, was just to lay the pieces out and get your spacing evenly spaced how it should be. And then start adhering them piece by piece. Okay, so I did that with the inner row, and then I worked on the next row. So then I placed these larger pieces, got my spacing right. I had to pull some out, move some over a little bit, and then I started one by one taping them down. And then I did the same with the third row. My third helpful hint here is about using the corner rounder. And, we're doing lots of punching here to get these little shapes, these teardrop shapes. And just as a reminder, you're going to want to empty the little trash bin on the back side of the corner rounder quite often. You're going to find that it's going to fill up. And once it fills up, your cuts are not going to be so smooth and even. It's going to impede how you're able to get your pieces right into the exact corner if it's all full of little debris in there. That's going to impede your punching. So just remember to check it often, shake it out, and clean it out, and you're going to get better punches. Okay, so unfortunately I don't have a photo right now that'll work with this layout, but I know that I'll find one soon and I'll be able to get it totally finished. But I was really happy with the way that it came out. I thought it was quite pretty, and I thought it was a great use for this peacock paper. And then again, here is just a peek at my original layout with this mandala-inspired idea that I had. So thank you so much for visiting with me again, and I will be back with more ideas to share with you on YouTube.